Warning: the Not Real Art podcast is intended for creative audiences only. The Not Real Art podcast celebrates creativity and creative culture worldwide. It contains material that is fresh, fun, and inspiring and is not suitable for boring old art snobs. Now, let's get started and enjoy the show.
Greetings and salutations, my creative brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Not Real Art podcast, where we celebrate creative culture and the artists who make it. I'm your host, Sourdough, coming to you from Crew West Studio in Los Angeles. Man, do we have a cool program for you all today. I have no doubt you will learn, grow, and be inspired by today's show. Before we get into our main event, I want to thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to like this episode and subscribe. Your likes and follows help ensure you won't miss any of our new shows, and it makes the algorithm gods happy, which helps us. So thanks for that. Also, be sure to visit our website, notrealart.com. Sign up for our newsletter to keep your finger on the pulse of everything we're doing here at Not Real Art for artists and art lovers. A lot of great stuff there. On the website, you'll get free educational videos. You can sign up for our artist grant for the chance to receive $2,000. You can buy affordable original and contemporary art through our partnership with Sugar Press. And you can become a supporter through Patreon if you want. So be sure to check out our website today for all the good, healthy stuff we got for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is a special one because we are going to feature one of our 6 2021 art grant winners, Nadyia Duff. Nadyia Duff in the house, who hails from Miami Beach, Florida. Nadyia's work in portraiture is phenomenal. I just love her style. It exudes energy and passion and love and joy. And she is actually just a source of joy and passion and love. I mean, I just love her energy. She's so fantastic. Jamaican-American artist, teaches art as well. You'll hear about this in the interview. But I mean, obviously, being a teacher in this country is just so critical. They do God's work, right? Frontline workers, firefighters, teachers. I mean, they get paid pennies. They don't get paid anything. And yet they do it because they know that they're called to do it. And so Nadyia Duff is called to be an art teacher as well. And we all know that so many times, being an artist, it's not a job, it's a calling. I mean, we don't have a choice. But in addition to her calling as an artist, she also is an arts educator and teaches kids about art. So we get into that. And we just learn about Nadyia and her history and her background and her life. I tell you what, she's had some struggles. She's triumphed. She's overcome those struggles, and they've informed her work. And you're going to hear about those struggles and how she's turned those into opportunities and a force for good in her life and in the world. And so anyway, I think you're going to love this. Without further ado, let's get into this wonderful conversation with Nadyia Duff, one of our winners from our 2021 Not Real Art Grant for Artists. Here we go. Nadyia Duff, welcome to the Not Real Art podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, welcome. This show is all about you. You won our 2021 Not Real Art Grant for Artists. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for everything. Thank you.
You are so welcome. You deserve it. Now, according to your CV, you are the recipient of several grants over the years. You've been pretty prolific and accomplished over the years.
Yeah, not grants per se, but every year I try to enter something because, I feel like if you're not showing your work, nobody's going to see your work. So I try to enter something every year, just on a whim, anything.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, that's really great. Well, now you've entered one for 2021. You've got one in the back of the net, as they say.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm just so happy for you. And everybody loves your work. All the judges were just so excited about having you as one of the recipients.
Wonderful. I love it. I love it.
Excellent. So we want to have you on the podcast because it's part of the deal. Like, we just love to celebrate you as one of the recipients and help you tell your stories and promote your work. But you're not a newcomer to podcasts. I mean, you even have your own podcast. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
So my podcast is, I guess you could call it history-based. It's called Invention Tension. And I go over certain things that were invented that we can't get rid of, like time, clocks, and money, and those kind of things, and how we live with these things and why we live with these things and why we can't change these things. So, and then I do like a song segment where I sing a song at the end of it based on everything. So yeah, I only have 3 episodes so far, but it's something I want to do long term. That's
amazing. So I love the concept, and clearly you're getting into an area that requires a lot of pre-production. I mean, this, what's nice about the interview format, right, is that we can sort of just log in and chop it up and talk about all kinds of things. There's not a whole lot of pre-production that goes into this particular podcast. Your podcast, clearly you have a lot of research, you have a lot of work, a lot of writing, and then apparently you even perform a song at the end of it. That's incredible.
Yes. I'm doing everything. I'm all over the place.
But I mean, it's amazing, right? I mean, because you're an artist and you're creating, and it doesn't matter the medium. Maybe some artists like to focus on one medium, but clearly, in some ways you're a multidisciplinary artist. And so because you do this musical component to your podcast, clearly you love to sing and maybe even write songs. I mean, has music been a part of your life?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very tempted, Nadyia, by the way. Nadyia, I'm very tempted right now, by the way, to put you on the spot and ask you to sing a song.
Oh, no.
It's my birthday today, Nadyia. Can you sing me happy birthday?
Of course I can sing you happy birthday.
Yeah, I know. Just kidding. No? It's not my birthday. I wouldn't put you on the spot, but yes. Okay. Well, anyway, I guess we'll have to wait for the podcast. I love the name Invention Tension.
Yeah. Invention Tension. Only have 3 episodes, cool. But
So what are the inventions that give you the most tension in your life?
Definitely time. The concept of looking at it and having to be confined to it. That's what gives me tension. Like, I got to get this done by so-and-so time. And this other person's getting it done at so-and-so time, but their time is different than our time. Like they're 6, they're 5, they're 4. So this idea of being confined to time, I feel like days where I don't look at the clock are like the best days that I have. So it's just time per se. And money, of course. Money's a thing for everybody. But,
right.
Some have it, some don't.
Right. Yeah. These artificial man-made measurements and restraints or constraints that dictate our lives. I mean, they truly are. They're unnatural.
Right. And they just came and they're here to stay. So that's, that's why it's a tension. It's like, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. You just got to deal with it and find ways to deal with it, right?
You got to deal with it.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. And then the songs,
Yeah, you do have to deal with, this year for me, it's like one of the things that I've been doing to try to slow time down because I'm a lot older than you are. I turned 50 last year. And I'm 51 this year. And when I turned 50, and I don't give a shit about the number, that's not the case. But what I realized is that the 50 years had gone by like that, Right. And part of the reason why it had gone by so quickly, I think, was because I worked really hard to try to do a lot all the time, like pack it all in, like a lot of activity. And then what I realized at 50, it was like, well, wait a minute. I got a lot done in 50 years, so that's cool. But like it went by really fast. So if the motto of my life for the first 50 years was like, use my time, pack it in, get things done. I think the motto of my life moving forward is about savoring my time.
Yes.
Like trying to slow it down, right? Because it's only going one way, right? And I want to, so I bring that up because this year I started meditating, and I tell you what, it's been a wonderful way to kind of slow time down and help me savor the moment. Do you meditate? What are some of your spiritual practices?
I do meditate. I used to meditate often, but I've developed tinnitus, where it's kind of like a ringing in your ear. So sometimes the silence is not good for me. So it's like, I try to, and I found other ways to, meditate with sound, Yeah.
How did the tinnitus happen? Was that something that happened recently? Is that something you've been dealing with for a while?
Yeah, maybe it happened last year. And I think it's a symptom of anemia, like blood flow. I don't really know the direct cause, but it's just something that, or it could be mental.
Right.
It could just be something else, but it's there and I'm aware of it, but I know how to deal with it. So that's the good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. How has that impacted your creative practice? I mean, is it harder now to focus when you're creating, or have you turned it into a motivational device? Like, how has it impacted your practice?
Not too much, because I'm usually listening to something while I'm working. So I usually have noise around me. So I'm used to having noise. The silence, I mean, I've been used to silence before, but now I'm more aware of it because of that noise in my, my ear that's going on. But it doesn't affect my practice at all. And I've learned to deal with it, like I said, in different ways. So yeah, I'm still able to draw and do everything, and
Excellent. So how do you organize yourself for your practice? I mean, are you in the studio 9 to 5? Are you pretty rigorous about how you make your art, or do you have a more of a fluid approach to your output and when you're in the studio? Like, take us through a typical day for you.
So I'm an art teacher by day. So I'm an art educator. And when I get home, I'm tired. So I usually do art on the weekends. So I always tell myself I need to do something, any art thing, even if it's just start something in the weekend. And I work from my table. I don't really have a studio. It's just a table with some drawers with markers and pens and everything that I need. So I work pretty fast because I'm working with 9x12s usually. So it's not like large pieces of paper that I'm working with. So once I start working, I just focus on that for the day. I work, I eat, and then I finish what I'm doing. And that's my process. I don't get to it every weekend, but I try to make something, because sometimes you get consumed with work and getting the students to do art and teaching them about art that you kind of forget about your own art. And I was like, I need to create so that doesn't happen to me. So yeah, I try to get something done every week, or at least every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So right now you're doing so much portraiture work, and it's, we just love your style, and it's so cool.
Thank you.
And you've obviously got it down, right? But I mean, I'm just curious, like, for one portrait, 9x12 or whatever spec you're working to, do you have a sense of like, one portrait's going to take me 3 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours? Like, do you kind of have it down to where like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to block out, X number of hours?
Yeah, I know it will take me at least 4 hours to complete one portrait. I know at least. And it depends on when I start. Like, I start early in the morning and I want to be done by like 3 o'clock so that I can spend after 3 o'clock to do other things. It doesn't take me that long because I know the process. I know how I'm going to approach it. I just don't know what exactly I'm going to put on the page yet, but I know I'm drawing someone and I'm going to be putting them somewhere that I want them to be.
Let's talk about your models and the people in your portraits, because I mean, they seem like the coolest motherfuckers. Like when I was just like looking through your work, looking through your portraits, I'm like, I want to hang out with these people. It looks like Nadyia got some really dope friends. So let's understand your subjects a little better. Are these friends of yours, or are they clients, or a little bit of both? I mean, who are these cool people
actually,
in your portraits?
I partnered with this app called Sketchy app. And the premise of Sketchy app is for people to put their pictures up and artists to draw them. Now, I was with Sketchy before it became an app. Like, it was called Sketchy Miami, and it was a website, and the owner of it wanted a portrait of everybody in Miami. I mean, it was a grandiose thing, but I was like, let me participate in this. And what happened was I participated and I drew a reporter. I didn't know it was a reporter. And she's like, oh, check out this app. Check out this website, Sketchy. So then it became an app, and now there's millions of people on it, and then it's awesome. But people are constantly putting their picture on there, and they kind of like give over their copyright to their picture. You're allowed to use this picture for whatever reason, and they want their portrait drawn. So a lot of artists use it for practice. I use it for developing full progress to work. So most of these people I don't know. Some I do, some I don't. And I make it up. I make it up as I go. I take their face and I put them wherever I want them to be.
Yeah. Well, that's super cool. I didn't know about the app. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it's an awesome app.
But I mean, what a great source of material for you. But you have such a distinctive style, in terms of bringing these people to life. There's so much energy that exudes from these images. How did you get here? I mean, obviously you're still evolving, every artist, right, is evolving and emerging from where they were if you're always growing and working. So I know that you hope to probably grow and evolve beyond. But I mean, take us through a little bit of your journey. And I want to go back. I will go back because I want to talk about your kids at school and the fact that you're arts educator, because that's so important. And that's, I think they call that God's work. So you definitely. And nurses and, it's like first responders, right? Whatever. But I want to better understand first your journey in becoming an artist and in sort of finding yourself where you're at right now in your practice.
Okay. So I've always been into art ever since elementary school. But I wasn't going to pursue a career in arts. I was pursuing medicine, actually. I went to medical magnet schools and all that stuff. And I got I applied for cooking and they put me in art class. Cooking was full. So you got to take art. You got to take art one. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll take it. And I got in it and I was really good at it.
I'm going to be a doctor anyway.
Yes, I know. I was really good at it, and I got my first really good watercolor set from that class because she signed me up for AP art. So I was like, okay, I got to get good stuff now. So I got a really good watercolor set, and I started painting like lion pictures of lions, lion manes and stuff like that. And I was like, this is really good. This is something I could get into, painting. So I went off to college, University of Florida, but I studied art education. But we were able to take all classes, like painting, sculpture, ceramics, everything. And when I got into painting class, it was black and white painting. We were painting still lives mostly. And I was like, okay, still lives are cool, but there's somebody next door painting portraits that I want to take that class with the portrait painting. So I started with acrylic paint, and I was just painting classmates' faces of celebrities, things like that. It was acrylic, and I liked acrylic because it dried really quickly, and I could just keep adding layers and layers and layers on top of it. And then I moved back home, but acrylic was really too messy for my room. I was like, I can't keep painting acrylic in here. I needed something easier and something simpler, something cleaner that I could work with. And I found out about alcohol markers, like Copic markers. And then I was like, I can replicate everything I'm doing with acrylic using these markers and using these pens. So that's what I started doing. I started doing pen portraits first, just plain pen, no color really, just maybe, those pens with the 4 prongs and it's pink and then blue and then green or red. And I was doing those kind of portraits. And then I started adding color on top of it with markers. And then I started adding color with the watercolor. Then I was like, maybe I could put acrylic back on this again. And I just kept layering things. And I was doing that for a while. Maybe about 3 years, I was just doing these really layered portraits with solid backgrounds. And then my mom was like, you never do landscapes. That's what sells. You got to do landscapes. Nobody's going to buy a picture of somebody's face. You got to do landscapes. I was like, okay, fine. So I was like, let me draw something in the background of the portrait then. I'll do that. Because I don't want to just do landscapes. I love faces. I want to draw faces. So then I started doing the backgrounds. But then I was like, I don't want to do a detailed background because I feel like that will take away from the portrait. So I was like, maybe if I simplified the background and just made it these random solid shapes. I don't even want it to be any kind of right perspective or anything. Just something there, they're in a space, and I want that detailed person to be in that space. So I guess that's where I'm at right now with the detailed people and kind of cartoonish, simple backgrounds in the back. So that's where I'm at now.
Well, the way you do it, I mean, it's such a compelling way to kind of frame the humanity of the person. It's the background, I mean, there's always a background, right? But, if you're really looking at somebody or seeing somebody, hopefully that background does kind of blur out, right? And you're really seeing somebody, whether it's your friend or your lover or whatever, it's everything else kind of goes away. And then boom,
right.
you see the energy of that person, whether they're in or a stranger or whatever. And it's such a smart, clever, but yet simple. I mean, there's genius and simplicity, right? But I mean, it's such a thoughtful way of saying, no, I'm gonna make mom happy, but I'm gonna really celebrate that person, not take away from that. I love it. I absolutely love it. How would you, when people commission you for portraits, like what do you typically charge when people commission you?
It depends. Usually I charge by size.
And by the way, if you don't want to talk numbers, you could just say, I don't want to talk numbers. I'm just curious.
I mean, it depends.
Your prices may go up next week. Yeah, right. It depends. Okay, good. We'll talk offline about it because, my wife's birthday's coming up soon. So maybe we'll talk about that later.
It depends.
Yeah. So I want to go back, though, because clearly you're a smarty pants. I mean, most artists are smart anyway, but you were on track to become a doctor of some sort, or work in medicine. So you've got the science, analytical, left brain things going on in addition to the right brain stuff. So talk about that a little bit. I mean, because why medicine? Was that just, you just loved science, or was your parents physicians? How did you become interested in medicine?
Well, when I was younger, I got sick. I got really sick. I was diagnosed with leukemia. And I went through that and I was like, maybe this is something I want to help with because I've been through it. And I really want to help with this disease and bring awareness to the disease. So my mom was like, yeah, do it. Go to school for it. I mean, being a doctor is good money. Do it. So I went to medical middle school, medical high school. And then my senior year, I was like, no, I want to do art. I'm sorry. But I was going to do medical illustration. I was like, okay, maybe I can put the two together. There was a school in, I think, Ohio that, specialized in medical illustration. And I was like, well, I do love medicine and I do love art, but I get more joy helping kids in my classroom be as good as me in the artwork that I'm doing. So I chose art education, but I still have all that medical knowledge, all that's still in there.
Well, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to put you on the spot because, listening to you talk, I get inspired, right? So I just had a thought. I just had an idea. I'm going to share it with you. You take it or leave it. You don't even have to respond. Mm-hmm. But I just saw this somehow beautiful opportunity, and you probably already thought about this, so forgive me if I'm telling you something you already know, but because you're a leukemia survivor, right? And you want to give back and you want to help heal these kids. And I just wonder, have you ever worked with kids in hospital with leukemia to paint their portraits and give them some positive energy? Because I could see whether you partnered with whatever the leukemia kind of nonprofit organization is that helps to raise money. I don't know. It just seems like a wonderful fit.
Yeah, it does. I've never really considered it, but yeah, for sure. That's definitely something I'm going to look into now.
Go for it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I mean, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I think I was 5. We had just moved to America from Jamaica in 1995. Yeah, I was young.
Yeah, super scary for your parents. I'm a dad. I'm an older dad. I got 2 kids under 8. And I can imagine how tough it was on your parents to go through that with you.
Yep. We made it through, though. Still here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're tough. You did it.
Yeah.
So you were 5 when you immigrated. How much does your heritage play into your work as a Jamaican-American? And talk a little bit about that in terms of your journey here.
I feel like a lot of the colors I use play into my Jamaican culture. Because if you look at traditional Jamaican art, it's very colorful. It's not dark or anything. It's reds and pinks and purples and bright yellows. So I feel like that's innately what I use when I paint and when I add colors to things. And I like the idea of people too, because a lot of Jamaican art is people at markets or people on boats or, sceneries of Jamaica. So I feel like that plays in a lot with what I choose to put into the backgrounds. A lot of the characters, I'll have somebody at a lake with a boat or someone camping outside. It's usually something naturey, but bright, vivid colors as well. So I feel like it's not an intentional thing. It just kind of happened or that influence is there. So I feel like that plays into it a lot. And my uncle's also a painter and he uses the same color palette that I use as well. So just vibrant colors, pop.
So he's a painter as well. Was he here in the States or is he back in Jamaica?
He's in the UK. He's in the UK.
In the UK.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you guys ever collaborated? Have you ever painted or collaborated together in any way?
Not really. Not really. He's older. He's living his life. We don't really, we don't really collaborate.
Okay. He's doing his thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So do you still have people back in Jamaica? You get back? I mean, what is life like in Jamaica these days?
I still have people there, but most of us are abroad now. We're in UK, Miami, Canada, New York. We're all over the place. And I don't have any more grandparents. We used to go back for grandparents, but they've all passed. So we haven't really gone back at all, really. Stay in the States.
Yeah. Do you miss it? Do you look forward to going back?
I mean, when I do go back, I enjoy it. I go back. I mean, the food is amazing. I go back for the food and for, the family. I do want to go back, but if I do go back, I'd probably go to a tourist area because I've never been to the touristy part of Jamaica. I've only just been home. So I'd like to visit the tourist part.
Right. There's more air conditioning over there, right? But, well, yeah, I ask in part because I've never been to Jamaica. I've been to Haiti a couple times. I've been to the Bahamas, and that's about it. So I've never been to Jamaica, but I've always wanted to go. I mean, it just seems like such a amazing place.
Go. Everybody that goes loves it.
Yeah. I know. And the food, too. I've heard that about the food. It's like,
I'm all about the food.
Excellent. All about the food. So talk about your studies. You said you went to, it was the University of Florida? Is that correct?
University of Florida.
So you got your BA in art studies there, correct?
Art education, yeah.
Art education, right. So your intent was to graduate and teach art.
Yes. That was the intent, and that's what I did.
Well, thank you, by the way, for making that choice. One of my great concerns is the defunding of arts education, not just in this country, but around the world.
Right.
And you're on the front lines as an arts educator. What do people need to know about the state of arts education in this country and in Florida, for that matter?
It all depends on the higher ups. If the higher ups are for art, then arts will get a lot of funding. Arts are important not only because a lot of schools and a lot of people believe that the way arts are set up in schools right now is just a place to drop kids off so that the other teachers can, have a break and do what they got to do with planning. But art is just that space where they can just relax, listen to lo-fi hip hop music and just draw and just release and just create whatever they want. And a lot of art now is moving towards contemporary practice, meaning that a lot of discussions are happening in the art room now. Instead of just, here, draw this and make it look pretty, we're moving towards, what do you think about this? Why are you drawing it this way? Why do you want to draw this? And, getting students to think critically and conceptually about their own artwork and not just copy what I'm doing. And we'll just have something nice to give to your parents when the school day is over. So that's where, at least where I'm moving to, and what a lot of art teachers now are promoting in terms of, but what people want is things that look pretty, which is unfortunate. It's like, if it doesn't look good, it's not going to get into this contest or that contest. And I know there's a disconnect between, okay, I want to please these people and make the art look really good so their kids can hang it up on the wall. But then I want them to have these deep conversations about art and art practice and their own art practice. But I feel like, once the funding's there and the support is there to not just create beautiful art, that we can make some really good changes and make civically responsible students that are, interacting with the arts and they're even in their own communities too, like the sculptures in their communities and all that stuff.
How old are the kids that you work with?
Well, I'm an itinerant teacher, which means that I travel and I work from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. It depends on the day. That's great.
So you get to touch all the minds, so to speak, right? Like the young and the older, like the teenagers. And that's beautiful that you get that option. What, as a teacher, right? I mean, there's so much for people who I guess are, old like me, right? Like I hear people talk all the time. It's like, the younger generation, this, the younger generation, that. Like, let's honor the younger generation for a moment What do you see in the kids that you work with that gives you hope?
They're very aware of everything. I mean, they know what's going on in the world, and they have their ideas and their thoughts about it, and they can discuss how they feel about certain things that are going on in the world and the art world. And I think the future's bright. I know a lot of people, oh, they're all on their phones. That's all they do. But they're learning things on their phones too. They're in tune with what's going on in the world, and they can differentiate between certain things as long as you teach them how to differentiate between reality and fake and what is important and what is not important. They'll listen. They want to learn. And that's what's good about the generation today. They're very in tune with everything.
Well, and isn't that the power and the value of arts education and the arts in terms of teaching kids and people generally how to think critically and how to see?
Right, definitely.
How to see and how to think. And so hopefully, right, even though they're on their phones, right, if they're also taking your class and working with you and listening and learning how to see and learning how to think, they're able to discern, right, the real from the fake and the hype from the truth.
Definitely. Yes. That's all we can ask for. I mean, have students that are socially conscious and also visually conscious and creating and trying to, I'm not asking for everybody to go change the world or anything like that, but know that your art means something.
Yeah. Yeah. The two things that I wish, if I could wave a magic wand and do just two things with the magic wand in terms of, education, I would make it happen and make it mandatory or make it real that kids from K through 12 get foreign language training as well as, or I should say language training. We should call it foreign language training, but you know what I mean? Like language training, arts training, and sort of design thinking,
Yes.
From K through 12.
Yeah, me too.
I just believe that the country would be a fundamentally different place 50 years from now, 30 years from now, if all of those kids got that kind of training K through 12.
I agree. Because I know here in Florida, a lot of middle schools, grades 6 through 8, don't even have art programs. It's like elementary, they have art, and then middle, it's done. And then they have the option to take it in high school if they go to a high school that offers art. So, I wish it was mandatory. But then again, you run into the problem where the curriculum isn't streamlined, where we teach one thing and then another thing, and then it changes every school year. So what we end up having is a student maybe doing the same thing every grade level. Sometimes it depends on the art teacher. There's no unified curriculum where, okay, they learn this and then they learn this next and then they learn this next. Every art teacher teaches what they want their student to know. So that's where we are.
Wow. Okay. So that's a key, powerful observation, right? Because I'm not an educator. I don't know, but I'm guessing they don't have that problem in science and math and English, right? At least on the local or state level, there is a consistent, holistic kind of approach,
right,
that brings the kid along through the years, through the subject. And in the arts, there is no comprehensive, unified program.
No. They call it pacing guides. There's no pacing guides for art. There's no pacing guides for music. And we just kind of teach what we want our kids to know and send them off to the next grade.
Do you think that is that a Florida thing, or do you think that is the case in every state?
It's a nationwide thing. It's just, you can't, there's so much content in art. It's impossible to say you must teach this and you must teach this. It's difficult to do. I mean, they call them standards that we follow, like elements of art, teach about line, but it doesn't tell you have to teach it this way, or you have to teach it when they're in second grade or when they're in third grade. It's just, they're guidelines, and you follow them. Let's say I decided to do a lesson on Frida Kahlo. I would pick whatever guidelines I want to use. Okay, we're going to learn about history. We're going to learn about a famous work of art. We're going to connect it to our community. And, that's how we kind of do it in the art curriculum.
Right. So there may be some guidelines, some guardrails, a kind of outline, but there's so much choice or so much to pull from or pick from in that within those guidelines that it's very hard to get a certain consistency or unified approach, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a fascinating thing because look, I bring it up because I went to public school. I grew up outside Chicago, but we had, it was a working class neighborhood, working class community, but we had a great tax base. And so we had a great arts program. So, I grew up with music and art all through basically K through 12. And I am who I am largely because of those classes. And so, it breaks my heart when I see now the school I went to, they don't have those programs like they used to,
Yeah.
And what's happening, right, to those minds and to those souls when they're not getting that training. I mean, if somebody asked the political uprising, January 6th in the Capitol, one has to ask, like, would that have happened if all those people had arts education K through 6?
Who knows? I know, right?
would that have happened?
Right.
But, probably, I mean, who knows? But it's, there's a book. Do you know the book Orbiting the Giant Hairball by Gordon MacKenzie?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. So you're about to.
Okay.
And I reference this book a lot. I mean, some of the listeners on the podcast are probably thinking to themselves, oh, geez, here he goes again. But this book is really meaningful to me. So Gordon MacKenzie was the chief creative officer at Hallmark Cards.
Okay.
And Orbiting the Giant Hairball was a book that he wrote about how a creative person, like him or anyone who works in a corporate kind of environment, how can you maintain your artistic integrity, when you work for the man in a big company kind of a thing, right? And so it's a great book. It's not that big. It's so thick, whatever. Not a tough read, easy read. But there's a story that he tells that's actually very poignant in the book. And the story he tells is because as a creative leader who wanted to give back, he would go and speak to school kids when schools around his, state or whatever. And he always started his talks with the same question, right? So whether it was kindergarten or third grade or fifth grade, he always asked the question, who here is an artist? And in kindergarten, every kid would raise their hand. I'm an artist. I'm an artist. Right? Well, you know where this is going, right? So by third grade, he would say, literally in the book, he talks by third grade, there'd be one kid in the back. Yeah, I'm an artist. Right. And so we're doing something, right, to our kids, K through 3, 4th, whatever. That's just like squeezing out this very natural born and bred kind of natural inclination towards creativity,
Right. Because before kids can even write, they can draw things. They can draw a circle with some lines and say, this is mom and dad, And I feel like as they get older, they become so aware of realism that if it doesn't look realistic, they're like, I don't know, I'm horrible. I can't do this. I can't draw it to look realistic. And I feel that's where I try to no, it doesn't have to look real. You drew it. It's yours. Take ownership. This is your work of art. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And it doesn't have to look realistic. You drew this. And, some were with it. Some were like, no, it has to look real. And some were like, okay, sure, fine. I'll work with what I got here. So it's this realism trend that things have to look super realistic and how it should look. I mean, if you're doing a commission, yeah, of course, you want it to look like the person or the object or the thing. But it's the realism that they get stuck in. If it doesn't look real, they don't feel like they're a great artist anymore.
Yeah, it's like to your point about medical illustration. Fine, if you're illustrating a medical book, absolutely get it right.
Right.
It's like you definitely want the illustrations to reflect the reality. But when it comes to art, right, all bets are off. But it is this pressure that I guess maybe it's our culture of standardization. I don't know, from an educational standpoint, if we're trying to standardize, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I always, push my kids. Doesn't have to look this way. It doesn't have to look like how I did it. It doesn't have to look like how your classmate did it. You did it, and take ownership of it.
Well, I'm just so happy to know that those kids have you. They're so lucky whether they realize it or not.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you, as an artist, One of the things that I like to talk to artists about, because there's, usually such a focus on the artistic process, the creative process, the artwork, the art object, the output, which is absolutely the most interesting part. Don't get me wrong. But for artists, every artist is different. Every artist has different motivations. I mean, you're in a situation where, and I have no idea, what art educators make these days, but you do have an income, right? Like you have a job that pays you. Yes, it's in the arts and everything, which is great. You're doing what you love and you're helping kids and giving back. And that's so powerful. That's way beyond any paycheck in terms of the feeling it gives you, I'm sure. But as an artist, right? I mean, so many artists don't have a job, right? Like their full-time job is making art, right? They don't maybe have a steady paycheck. So it's frustrating. It's challenging, to make ends meet as an artist trying to earn a living. Because turns out if artists are trying to make a living with their art, then they are in business, right?
Right.
If artists are making art just for the joy of art, they don't care about selling their art. Okay, that's a different motivation, or if an artist has a job that pays their bills, then that takes the pressure off. Right. In terms of, maybe trying to sell their art. I mean, when it comes to earning a living as an artist, I mean, what are some of your challenges or frustrations, or what are some of the things that you've learned that have helped you be more successful as an artist? I mean, is there any advice? Like, I guess, what I like to ask sometimes is like, if you could tell your younger self anything, right, about life as an artist, like what advice would you give your younger self in terms of what it means to be an artist, earn a living as an artist, be in business as an artist?
I think I would tell my younger self to continuously change and don't be afraid of changing, like in terms of what you're doing. Like sometimes it's easy to get stuck on something that works and something, people will buy, and you end up not wanting to change. And I feel like, I don't sell work a lot. It's not like my work is like off the charts selling and everything like that. But what my motivation is, I want to share these narratives with people. I want to share these things that people can relate to and look at and say, oh, I really like what I'm seeing. And if I'm making money off of it, I feel like commissions, I really don't like doing commissions because, the people are kind of telling you what to do. Like, oh, I want it this way and I want it that way. And It's kind of like pressure on me. It's like, oh, okay, I got to make it look like this and I got to put this there because this is what they want. So I'm not really big on, commissions. Like, oh, I got to do commission. But I guess take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes you'll be successful. Sometimes it's the people you know. Sometimes it's the styles that gets you noticed. I mean, I don't know. This one's tough. Because, not all people are going to like your work,
Yeah, it is a tough one because, well, it is and it isn't, right? Because, I think part of it is about understanding what you want as an artist. Like I totally respect artists that want to make art for art's sake and don't want to try to sell it. And then, then there are those artists that want to make what they want to make and whether it sells or not. And that's totally awesome too. That's totally fine. But then there are the artists who absolutely hang a shingle and say, I'm in business, buy my art. Yeah. I want to make money making art. But once you say that, that is a tough situation because how do you reconcile what you want to make with what people want to buy? Right. And that's it. And, and I think it's one of the reasons why I like doing the podcast is to tap into different artists' points of view or philosophy or ethos around this, because also, artists can share and it's like, oh, well, this works for me, or I tried that and that never worked. And because a lot of times being an artist, it's a lonely existence, right. And you don't get to share those ideas. But what I love about your situation is that you kind of have the best of all worlds, right? Like you're working with kids and you're educating and you're giving back and you're feeding minds and that feeds you spiritually as well as artistically. But then you get to come home and say, well, no, I'm going to make the art I want to make.
Right.
And if it sells, fine. If it doesn't sell, fine. But like the smile, every time you smile, you light up the room. Like you have the most electric smile.
Thank you.
I'm sure you hear that all the time. And that comes from a happy place. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be electric and light the room up if you really weren't happy inside, you know.
Right. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're lighting up the room over here, and I'm in California, and you're in Florida.
I love it.
It's a beautiful smile. Well, but it's funny. I don't mean to like harp on this, but one of the things that earlier, this idea that you could link up with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. While we were talking just now, I was like Googling, like finding out the organization. That there's this photo of this kid, beautiful kid. I don't know his story, but he's like right here, and he's battling leukemia. It looks like JJ, leukemia survivor. And just this idea that you could reach out to them and form some kind of relationship or partnership where you're creating portraits of these kids or any of leukemia survivors, or patients that just, I don't know. I mean, just I love that because it's such a good fit for you because you're coming from an authentic place,
Yes, that's definitely something because I used to volunteer with them in college. I used to volunteer with the Cancer Society.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. But not in like an artsy way, just, helping with like brochures and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's definitely something I can get into.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something you can get into. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, it's got to come from a real place, like it's hard. I totally get what you mean about commissions because it's like as soon as suddenly somebody asks you for a commission, I mean, it comes from a place of money, not a place of what you really want to do. It's like suddenly it's a design job, which is different.
I mean, I enjoy it. It's just, there's like that stress, I got to get this to look right. I got to get this to look like the person and I got to get it right because they're paying me for this. So I got to, get it right.
Got to get it right. Well, I'll tell you what, Nadyia Duff, you are getting it right as far as I can tell.
Thank you.
I just love your energy. You're just such a positive, lovely human being. I'm so grateful to have you as part of the Not Real Art family. I mean, to have you as part of our 2021 class is just an honor. And we're just so excited for you.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. Well, it was tough too. 827 applications.
Yeah, I saw the podcast. I listened.
It was,
I was like, whoa, it was that much.
It's tough. Holy shit. It was like, what? Because in all candor, like I started it 3 years ago, right? So the last 2 years we had 5 judges, That was plenty. And then when the deadline was getting, of course, everybody procrastinates, but nobody procrastinates more than an artist, right? Like artists procrastinate. The artists are professional procrastinators because the deadline was May 1. And I kid you not, out of those 827, I think 500 of them came in the last 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Like it was crazy. Just in the last 3 or 4 or 5 days, I just saw it was just like ching, 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 ching. The numbers going up and up and up. And then I was like, whoa. So May 1, the deadline ended. And then we ended up with 827. I was like, oh my God, I've only got 5 judges. Like, how are we going to do this? And so I had to scramble and, make some phone calls. And I thought, well, if I can get 5 more judges, we'll have 10. And then everybody can kind of get their little portfolio of, 85 artists. And then we can kind of break it out like that, make it more manageable for everybody, because I was sweating, I was just like, man, are we going to do this? Because of course, you don't just want to get it done. You want to do it right. And you want to make sure everybody's got a fair shake. So yeah. And I, shout out to the judges because, they really did a great job, but it was quite something. It was a tough field. And you, my friend, rose above the rest. And we just thrilled to have you. But you're one of those rare artists. I don't know that too many artists could decide to hang up the paintbrush and go to medical school and become a doctor. Your fallback plan, your backup plan is medicine. That's a very rare artist.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it happened.
When you're smart, you're smart. I have an artist friend of mine that she's a great artist. She hosts the podcast from time to time. Maybe you've seen her. Her name's Erin Yoshi, and a Japanese-American artist. But she's the only artist I know that actually has an MBA. And she didn't become an artist until after business school.
Oh.
I was like, she's like, yeah. I said, you're the only artist I know with an MBA, And she's like, yeah, I probably am the only artist with an MBA. I said, well, clearly you're an artist. You were not very good at business because if you had, I guess
no.
you would have stayed in business.
And I wish I was good at business.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Well, you are, because you know what? So much about business is about relationships and trying to put good, positive energy in the world and doing the right thing. And that's what you're doing, Nadyia Duff. And I'm
Thank
just,
you.
keep it up and more to come. One of the things I wanted to tell you that I didn't actually share with you, but in like early August, I think second week of August, we are doing a video projection here in Los Angeles at a place called Helms Bakery, or the Helms Bakery District. And the Helms Bakery District, so it's a really cool, hip, like design center, but it's also got like your restaurants and furniture stores and, like different kind of decor kind of shops and things.
Okay.
But, it used to be a bakery years ago. It was Helms Bakery. If you grew up in Los Angeles in the 40s, 50s, 60s, you knew Helms Bakery. They were famous for their little bakery trucks and whatever. And so, but anyway, 20 years ago or so, somebody bought the bakery, turned it into this like really cool design center with hip restaurants and stuff. And so they have this program called Projecting Possibilities. And for a week, they will feature an artist. They'll have this video projection, and the video projection plays all night and it showcases the artist. Well, we partnered with them last year and we're doing it again this year. And so second week of August, we're going to be doing this video projection that will be featuring you and the other 5 grant winners.
Awesome. Wonderful.
And it'll show your work. It'll show your beautiful face. It'll show your name. It'll show, where people can find you. So it's yet again a way that we want to help you and all the winners promote your work and tell your story and so on and so forth. So the video is actually being created right now. You'll see it online, certainly, and we'll be capturing it on camera as well. So you'll get to see it from afar.
I love it.
But it's going to be a really cool thing to be able to celebrate you.
Wonderful. That's awesome. I'll tell my friends in California to go look at it.
Yeah, yay. Yeah, tell them to come. If they're in LA, they'll know Helms Bakery District. They'll know. Yeah, come. And then they can get photos of them with you, and you could, they can share the love. There you go.
Wonderful. Yes. That's awesome. I love it.
So Nadyia Duff, before we go tonight, I'm so grateful for all your time. And of course, I'll put it all on the website and everything. But before we go, tell our listeners where they can find you online and on your social channels.
All right. You can find me on Instagram at Nady_art, NADY_ART. You can also find my website, NadyiaDuffArt.com, and it's the same on Facebook, NadyiaDuffArt.com. Just look my name up on Google and you'll find me everywhere.
Love that. Thank you for that. Do people call you Nady? Is that a little nickname, or is that just something you did to? Okay. Only mom.
It's a simplified. It's simplified. I mean, anybody could call me Nady. I go by either.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Well, Nadyia Duff, you're the best. Thanks so much for being with us today and being part of our Not Real Art family.
Thank you, Scott.
You got it. More to come, people. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Bye.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to like this episode, write a review, and share with your friends on social. And if you haven't already done so, please press the subscribe button and follow us on Instagram at Not Real Art World.